My name is Taylor Page with Optimize. I work in our service department, and today I would like to review with you how to check and change your oil and what tools are necessary to do so. So first, in order to check your oil, we're going to have to open up the lid, and then you'll want to find the dipstick on your engine. In this case, it is right here. It's got an orange handle that says engine oil. What you want to do is you want to pull that out. What you would like to see is that that top hole is filled with oil a little bit, and that the oil level goes all the way to it. Now, in instances where you do see that it's about halfway or below, I do recommend filling your oil or your engine with oil, starting with about a quarter of a quart to half a quart, and then working your way up until you see that that second hole is filled. You only want to change your oil after about 200 run hours minimum, which is equivalent to about 7 days of continuous runtime. And then again at 400 run hours, which is about another week or so. But before that, if you notice your oil is getting low, just fill it until that top hole is filled. But at 200 hours, we do recommend changing the filter as well and draining the oil out. And what you will need in order to do that are a couple of tools. You'll need an oil pan, just something to drain oil into, an oil wrench or channel locks, just something to loosen the oil filter, an oil filter, and 2 quarts of oil. And I do recommend having some rags on hand just in case it gets a little bit messy. But what we're going to do first is we're going to take an oil pan over here. And if you look down here after taking the front panel off, you have your oil drain hose. You want to take your oil drain hose off by simply just undoing this beaded cord right here, letting it hang, and then you'll want to take this. I typically just recommend having it up. You'll have to open the cap, loosen it all the way, set that to the side, and you'll want to let that just drain out. Typically after a couple seconds, you'll see oil start to come out of it. And one way to make this process a little bit quicker is if you take this oil fill cap off, set that to the side, and you'll just want to let this rest here until you see that all the oil is completely drained out, at which point no more oil will be draining. So at that point, we will take the cap and we will screw it back on in order to get that out of the way. Make sure that you seat that fairly tight against the gasket. Okay, we'll just set that to the side, and then we'll take our oil pan and set that to the side as well. Now we're ready to actually change our filter. In order to do that, you will need a new oil filter, of course, to replace it with. You'll also need an oil filter wrench in order to take that off. And I do recommend having some rags on hand. This part can get a little bit messy, so I'm going to take a few right now. It's fairly basic, but what you'll want to do, I do recommend getting your new one ready. Let's go ahead and take it out of the box. And then I will also go ahead and take a little bit of some old oil, just put it on my finger and seat it around the seal. That will allow it to seal better once you put it on. Set that to the side. And then we're going to want to unscrew this. Just get on there. Sometimes they're pretty tight. This one is fairly loose. Now that its hand's loosened, we'll be able to loosen that up. Again, it may get a little bit messy, but just have some rags around. We'll throw our new one back on there. Just make sure that that is fairly seated. Wipe up some of the extra oil that is remaining. And now we're ready to pour oil back into it. Most air-cooled units from Generac take a little bit less than 2 quarts. And so we're going to start by adding 1 quart and then checking our dipstick. So you'll want to fill into that hole that you pulled the cap off of earlier. I would take your time with it. So we've got 1 quart in there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to check our dipstick and see what level we're at. Again, do that, pull it out, wipe it off, stick it back in there, and then we'll pull it out one more time. And at this point, I don't see any on the dipstick, so we're good to add another 1/2 quart. Okay, it's about 1/2 quart. Go ahead and check it again. So you can't really see it, but that little hole is filled. And so I'll go ahead and add a little bit more. Not quite a full quart. Let that settle for a second. And I'll recheck. We're now at that top line. It's hard to see with the sunlight, but we are actually there. And so that is how you check and add oil to your generator, as well as changing the filter. You want to go ahead and seat this back on your oil filled cap. Please make sure that you seat this fairly snug, as it may vibrate off if it's too loose. And then you're good to go. If you have any issues or questions about that process, please give our office a call at 225-308-4100.